Hey everybody, it's Robert with GoPro. Got a little video here about the fundamentals of locating. This should help for bleed off and things like that, but I thought I'd start with a few fundamentals. First thing to do is make sure that you are at where the locate says. For the sake of this video, we are at 208 Main Street. As you can see, we're looking at the mailbox here. It's clearly marked 208, and down here we have some white paint. Looks like this is going to be a locate request for repairing, installing, replacing a water service. There's a meter box there hiding under all that grass. Here's the white paint. This is typically how a lot of people white paint their stuff. Sometimes they'll call in front of property, both sides of road, and not white paint. Everybody that's located for a while knows how that goes. But this is typically what you're going to see. You're going to see the multi-directional arrows blocking off an area that they plan to dig in. As you can see, we have a telephone pad nearby, and what we're going to need to do is stop right there. When arriving at your locate, before you exit the truck, just go ahead and check your records and see what kind of facilities are going to be in the area. This locate is going to be single cable, some potential drops. We are required as the contract locator for AT&T to mark everything that is in their PEDs. Drops, cables, all of it. If there's any problems with any of the locates, if they won't do what the prints, if they do something that's different from what's on the records, for instance, if this cable here shows continuing on around, if it doesn't do that, it needs a plant problem. Turn it into your supervisor so he can notify AT&T of the problem and they can come out and fix it. When you show up at your locate, be sure that you park in a safe manner. Pay attention to your surroundings. Be aware of mailboxes, driveways, places where people are going to back out, and of course, traffic. Park with the flow of traffic on the same side of the road. Do not go across the road and park against traffic. That is not technically legal, and it's just another thing people complain about. So when you do park, be sure and place your cone at the rear of your vehicle. This is required of AT&T contractors as well as AT&T employees. If for some reason you do not put your cone out, please don't photograph your truck and attach it to the ticket. AT&T audits these things, and they can make an issue of it if necessary. All right, that's enough of this section. I am going to shut this off now, and when we come back, we're going to be ready to start locating, and we'll cover some fundamentals of what needs to happen when you're conducting a locate request. Okay, as you can see, we are back. We have the lid off the PED, and our equipment is set up and hooked up. There's our dig site there, repairing or replacing a water line. There's the white paint. And here we are at the closure. Observing, we have, looks like a 5-pair drop. Got the green white hooked up. I guess the rest have gone bad. Not to get lost in the weeds here, but they normally start with they start connecting the blue white, then the orange white, and so on and so forth. This for some reason has the green white hooked up. Here's our equipment set up. We have determined from the records that the cable comes down from there, from the south there, proceeds through the work site. This is according to the records. Comes into this pad, and then the other cable continues on around the roadway here over to the next pad. You can maybe be able to see it here just to the left of that mailbox there. I don't normally see this, but this pad has been redone. As you can tell, there's 2 bundles of 25 in each cable. It's a 50-pair copper cable, and one side is marked CO and the other side is marked field. The CO goes back toward the central office. So according to the records, we should be locating back to the south, which is going to be toward our work zone. That's going to be the cable that we want. However, we need to hook to every facility in this PED to ensure it is not in conflict with the dig site just to the south of us here. So I'm going to start with the field cable and we will take it from there. I'm gonna, as you can see, sorry it's upside down. Let me do this. We are in 577, lowest available frequency. Well, it's a little higher than 512, but that's the approved frequency. Our ground rod is offset, so it shouldn't cause any interference for any locating. If you have issues locating something, reposition your ground rod to another spot. It helps frequently to do that. So there's the setup. We're all hooked up and ready to go. So when we come back, I'll have the transmitter and we'll go over some fundamentals of locating. All right, we're back. Now, I just want to go over some things with the receiver. And this is true for all of them, Subsite or Vivax, but in the upper corner there, the upper left-hand corner, you see the sharp peak there with the two arrows. I like having the double arrow. Some people use them, some people don't. It doesn't matter. That is called twin antenna. This is going to be your go-to to start out with. So, so the next antenna, I just have two set up. I've eliminated all the others. I don't use them as much, so it's just less to cycle through. See, as you can switch C, I've switched it over. That is called null. It's going to be the reverse of peak. I'll demonstrate that in the next section of video. Right now, we're just identifying the two. Okay, be back in a second. Okay, as you can see, I have checked the cable running into the field, and I have checked this drop to ensure that they are out of conflict with the dig zone, which is behind me to the south. I just went ahead and marked it just for clarity. You never know what these excavators are going to do. They could just decide to come down here to clean out the ditch or something, and it's just good to have paint on it. Speaking of paint, don't be afraid to bump the edge of the sidewalk or the driveway or the curb with just a little smudge of orange paint. I do not runway stripe it. I do not want the space shuttle calling to say they can see these marks. Just bump that a little bit. That saved us quite a bit on damages. People have said it wasn't marked. They scrubbed up all the marks or kicked them out or whatever. And then, you know, we didn't have anything on any permanent surface. So just do what I do and just bump the edge a little bit, and that helps out a bunch. I've gotten this out of quite a bit by finding stuff like this. All right. This is a good way to try and locate. This is a good procedure. All right. This is how I was taught. If anyone knows a better way, I am surely open into listening. I'm also open to constructive criticism. And here's what we're going to do. I'm not going to be able to mark because I only got two hands, but here we go. Start somewhere, doesn't matter where, and do a 360-degree sweep around the PED. You hear that? Okay, we need to put a dot right there. There's already a dot there. We got a signal there. All right, great. In spite of that, just continue on around. 360 degrees all the way around. Of course, go outside your equipment. We're going all the way around, back where we started. I know you're just looking at videos of grass, but you didn't hear the receiver go off again, did you? I've got it turned up real loud so you can hear it. Okay, we're gonna go back to our signal then. Hey, that's good. Look at that. We've got 23.8 milliamps. Got a nice clean peak there, so we're going to go ahead and trace it out and dot it. The cable should, well, it doesn't turn. It goes across the road. As you can hear, we got a nice there it is. That's it right there. All right, so just every so often, about every 10 or 15 feet, dot. Just throw a dot, all right? So I'm gonna dot this and then we'll come back and mark it. All right, as you can see, we just went ahead and dotted it out. It turns out this cable crosses the road and runs back toward the CO this way. So as you can see, we've got this cable dotted. We didn't stripe it first, we dotted. So we got dots on it, and it goes across the road. Now, this brings up a good point. Sometimes, actually frequently, you will get a locate request that says, front of property, both sides of road. And then you'll come out, and it'll just be white painted in the front of property. The other side of the road will not be white painted. Do you have to locate the other side of the road? Yes, you do. We do not locate according to the white paint. We locate according to what the ticket says. So, this is incorrect. Say they needed both sides of the road it says both sides of the road on the ticket. I just white painted this side of the road thinking I knew where the water main was. Turns out I didn't, because I'd only been working for the water company for a week. The water main's actually over there. So they're gonna need to dig all the way across the road, so they called in both sides of the road. Run into this quite a bit. But anyhow, I digress. This is proper operation of your receiver. So we're gonna have our receiver. We are going to, it's in twin right now. As you can see, we're gonna switch it to null. As you can hear, I apologize for the volume. We were close to the creek, so I turned it up. We're gonna go back and check our dots. Do you hear that? Null is the opposite of twin. So instead of getting the peak on the facility, you get a null. So we call this the null antenna. You hear that nice clean drop off? See the arrows coming up? Sorry, I'll bring it in better. All right, that tells us that is definitely the cable. All right, so the same way you went out in twin, that you put your dots down, come back if you've got a clean null like this. Say if you got a good peak on this side, and then when you go to this side, it doesn't do anything, go to the other side, you know you're off on something else. This null will verify that you're on the facility. Normally, what you would do is go away from the, go up away from through the locate, and then come back and null and stripe it. But since I'm doing a video here, it kind of complicates things. But this is what you're looking for, that nice clean null. All right? So if you're not checking in null, you could be bleeding off. So this would be a good thing to do. It'll also give you milliamps just like that. 16.5, 17, 19, that's pretty good. That's what we're after. I am certain that I am on this facility. This will give you a lot more confidence in your equipment and what's going on. And if you run into something that doesn't null and will not null at all, and you've tried alternate hookup points, you switched out your ground, relocated your ground, might be a good idea to either get some help from your supervisor or maybe even turn in a plant problem on it. This especially goes for high profile fibers and things like that. All right, well, this concludes our video. Well, strike that. I'm going to add a little bit to the end of this, but we'll come back for that. Now, when we're locating AT&T facilities, we hook up to the inner shield. That's the inner sheath. It's going to be the top one. 99%, well, all the time. When they're up like this, the inner shield's going to be on top. That's the one we locate off of. You can see it here on this cable. Sorry for the camera work. And you can see we're hooked up to the inner on this cable. The outer shield is not to be used for locating. All right. As you can see, this is a double sheath cable. If it's single sheath, just hook to the sheath that you have, and it should locate just fine off of that. All right. As you can see, everything's unbonded, everything's isolated. So make sure nothing's touching in there. It's best just to disconnect all the straps, so you know you're not going to be touching something else, and your signal will go where you don't want it to go. Sorry again for the camera work. We're going to come around front, get a close-up of the drop. This is a shielded 5-pair. I'm sorry, 3-pair. I'm used to seeing 5 pairs. It's a fairly newer drop. I'd say this one's a few years old, but this actually goes to the house next door. It doesn't seem this house here has a drop, at least not for AT&T. You can hook to that shield and locate it. That also needs to be isolated when you're locating. When you're done locating, be sure and bond everything back up, including the drops. We'll come back in just a moment, and I'll show you how to locate unshielded drop on the spare pair. Okay, here we are. Say you've got one of the plastic 2-pair drops. You guys know what I'm talking about, the flat ones. There's no conductor in it except for the pairs for carrying the phone line signal. Just take a spare pair and strip it, twist it together, and hook up to that. Probably not supposed to say this, but you're probably going to have to run it in 8 to get it to locate when you locate them like this. But that's what you do if you don't have a conductor. You can see this has a shield on it, so that conducts the signal just fine. But if you didn't have that, or if it was broken, sometimes they break off at the base, and the exposed part, you can't get any signal on it because it's broken. You can go to this, twist it together, and hook up to that. All right. I like to take the spare pairs, put them up over the top, just kind of fold them over there, keeps them up out the way. Just looks a lot cleaner. This is probably, I think this will be the end of this video here. I'm just going to add that you need to bond the cable grounds back up. The bonding straps need to go back where they were. Personally, I like to take the nuts and put them on, take the bonding straps off, put the nuts back on there. Just a couple of turns, it keeps them in place. It doesn't take that much extra time, and it keeps them from getting lost. They will drop down in there. Things happen. Say if I lost one of these, see the bottom ones that are screwed up against the cable there? Sorry, camera work. See the other one? Just spin that one off, put your strap on, and spin it down. If you don't bond this stuff back up, it causes problems. It builds up what's called an induced charge, and it can create a hum on the phone lines. AT&T hates it. They will fine us for it. They do audit us for it. And it also makes your job harder when you cannot. Say if I go down to the next ped, if this one's still unbonded, it's not going to run very well, and I might bleed off and catch damage. So please bond this stuff back up. Put the lids back on, tighten down the lugs. Before you leave, make sure you have all your equipment. Pick up all your paint guns, your empty paint cans, your ground rod, your can wrench. See, I've got equipment scattered. My paint gun's just laying in the grass over there. And then, before you leave, just go ahead and look at your records one more time and make sure there's nothing there that you've missed. Just go back and review and just make sure. That's all I have, with the exception of flagging. Flag where necessary, whatever the guidelines are on that. I'm not sure what that is. This was mainly for the purposes of locating. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. Constructive criticism, I am completely open to it. I look forward to hearing from anyone who has any questions or problems or suggestions. Please contact me. I am more than happy to answer them if I can, and if I can't, I will find out for you. That's all I have. Thanks for watching, and have a good day. All right, just for educational purposes, I went ahead and marked a cable through this white painted dig zone. As you can see, it's not that far from the edge of the dig zone to this PED, and I've got it marked out a good 15-20 feet. Well outside of the supposed dig zone. You mark it through the dig zone using flags where appropriate. Keep going. There's the white paint. Keep going. About another 15 feet or so. There's no need to mark up this driveway because they're most likely not going to dig it up. So that's how far you need to go. It would be a good idea here, with what I mentioned earlier, maybe bump the edge of the driveway a little bit with some orange paint just to let me know if I have to come out that you did mark it through here. After you get done with the locate, I need shallow angle photographs with good background. This does not help me. Doesn't help you. All right, I need you to open up that angle, shallow that angle out. That way you got background. That way if that cable gets hit, if they hit that cable, I can come back to your post-locate picture and say, well, he marked it about 3 or 4 feet off the edge of the pavement there, and that's where I found it, so they dug on the marks. But if it's just a picture of an orange stripe on a patch of grass, that's not going to help us, even with an address stamp. Those Google addresses are not that accurate, so please keep that in mind when you're taking your post-locate photographs. That's all I have. Thanks very much for watching.